we now want to turn our attention to some disturbing figures on India's missing women. Over 13 lakh women and girls went missing between the year 2019 to 2021, according to the National Crime Records Bureau. The number is only rising year on year, from 4.24 lakh missing women and girls in 2019 to over 4.65 lakh in 2021 alone, a rise of around 10%. This means that over 1,200 women and children go missing in India every single day. Over 50 go missing every hour as we speak. Some of these women and girls might have been trapped in child trafficking, kidnapped for begging, assaulted. We can only imagine, as we don't really know where they are, what happened to them, and whether they're even safe or alive. Let's now tell you about which states are the worst here. Number one is Maharashtra, with over 56,000 women missing in the year 2021. Next is Madhya Pradesh with over 55,000, followed by West Bengal with around 51,000. Next it's Odisha with over 29,000, followed by Rajasthan at over 25,000. And in the national capital, over 21,800 women went missing in the year 2021. Now, despite these absolutely staggering figures and the problem only getting worse year by year, there seems to be no specific action or no specific steps to find these missing women. The Home Ministry, in a reply in the Parliament, said that there's a stringent Criminal Law Amendment Act for effective deterrence against sexual offences. Second, it said that there's an emergency response support system that provides a pan-India single internationally recognized number, which is 112, that's available for all emergencies for all women in distress. Third, the Ministry of Women and Child Development has set up 733 one-stop centres across the country to provide assistance for women in distress. But these are steps that have been taken that the government is talking about. But are these enough? And is there enough being done to find these missing women? That will be our focus today, and we'll be joined by guests on this. We are joined by Mr. Ravi Kant, who's the country head of India for Access to Justice at the Kailash Satyarthi Children's Foundation. We also have Dr. Ranjana Kumari, who's a women's activist, a writer, an academic director at the Centre for Social Research and the chairperson of Women Power Connect. We also have Lalita Kumaramangalam, who's a BJP leader and also the former chairperson of the National Commission for Women. Thanks very much for joining us on the show. My first question to you, Mr. Ravi Kant. The Kailash Satyarthi Foundation works to rescue children from trafficking, child labour and violence. So based on your experience, what happens to these missing girls? Where do they end up?
Basically, the issue of missing children got spotlight when the Supreme Court ordered in 2013 that for every child, an FIR has to be registered. This was in Bachpan Bachao Andolan versus Union of India. Pursuant to that judgment, every child going missing, an FIR is getting registered, and after 3 months, if the child is not found, many of these the cases are referred to the anti-human trafficking units, which are the institutional machinery set up for the search of missing children and women. A lot of these children over the years, over the last 10, 12 years, we have seen that the anti-human trafficking units have been successful in rescuing many of these children who continue to remain missing because a complaint and an FIR has been made and the cases are getting investigated. So it's the institution, there is an institutional framework which responds to these missing children and missing women cases. As activists on the ground, we know that a lot of this work happens and the police have been diligently trying to pursue these cases and search them. But what we see is that the children who continue to remain missing is the figure of the trafficking which is a matter of concern. Because though the law enforcement is doing its work, it's a fact that many of these children end up in trafficking rackets and are rescued after many years sometimes. So that brings the spotlight on the issue of trafficking, and many of these missing children and women end up in trafficking situations.
Right, so many of these missing children and women end up in trafficking. That's extremely concerning. So on that, I want to come to you, Lalita Kumaramangalam. Has enough been done? As Mr. Ravikant has pointed out, that there are FIRs filed and there are investigations. But we are seeing, first, the number of missing women and girls is only rising year on year as we're showing you the data. Secondly, the steps that the Home Ministry stated in its reply in the Parliament spoke about acts and measures against sexual assault. But in the case of missing women and children, we don't even know how many women might have been victims of sexual assault out of those who are missing. So the first step is to find these women, and only then you can take action against assault, if any, after that. So are there any specific steps for finding these women and girls in the first place?
Look, I'm sorry, excuse me, I have a very bad throat, but first of all, let me say right off that 13 lakh women and girls going missing is a national shame, regardless of what state, what parties in power, etc., etc. The fact is that girls and women should not go missing. Quite a lot has been done over the years, but obviously it's not enough. Whether it is due to poverty, whether it's due to, in a large part, the patriarchal attitude that we still have towards our women and children, how they are going missing, where they are going missing, etc. is, there's a lot, there are too many gaps in this knowledge. We don't know exactly how many. We have data for some things, yes, but there's too much missing data. We need to do a lot more research. We also, of course, need to plug the gaps when it comes to the whole mindset around women. Most women are, very few children, you would say, have run away on their own, etc., or women for that fact. But it is also, and remember that these are the reported number of women missing, etc. There's an enormous number, I think, which goes unreported, which means that this is really a national shame across the board, regardless of whatever politics, whatever excuses, whatever everything that we may find to say. This is just not done. We must have more research, we must have more infallible data, and we must be able to accept that in this issue, on this issue, unless everybody across the board, the judiciary, the legislative, parliament, the local committees in the villages, the police, everybody has to act together. The moment any sort of politics come in, and the NGOs, let's not forget, many of them play a very sterling role in seeing that, first of all, uncovering this sort of terrible thing that happens, and in trying to plug the loopholes as well as they can. But unless every single member of this group, let me say it, works together, regardless, without ego, without all the rest of that comes in the way very often. This is a problem that should have been dealt with a very long time ago. 13 lakh is I don't know what word to use actually. Apart from being shameful, it's almost unbelievable. Look at this. We don't know how many of these are girls, boys, especially the children. Look at how many people are they not human? Everybody is human. Nobody should have to go missing like this. And like I'm saying this again, these are the reported numbers. I don't know how much goes unreported, let's say slips under the radar for many reasons again. Much of this may be due to local conflicts in places. Like what's happening in Manipur now, what's happened very often during elections, etc., etc. But we don't have data. There must be more data available also, so that we can come up with effective solutions. Solutions that can actually be monitored and also be implemented.
Right.
I don't know how good our monitoring systems are actually, even though we have some wonderful NGOs doing some very good job. And I'm sure there are also police in many parts of the country who are also doing a good job. But I don't know how good our monitoring systems are. And so, for the people who are actually being found again, are they being rehabilitated? There are lots of questions. There are too many questions that need to be answered. So we need to also approach it in a very multifaceted way. Just looking at the problem in isolation that so many are missing, what do we do is not enough. We have to see the basic reasons, what happens from where they go missing. Is it from their homes or from their schools or when they are traveling or if they're left alone playing? There are so many reasons and so many places.
Right.
All of this, we have to do very detailed research and then sit together and work it out.
So 4 steps that seem to be clear from your answer that you've given. First, there needs to be monitoring. Second, there need to be specific steps to find these missing women. Third, these missing women and girls, there need to be steps to rescue them. And fourth, then they have to be rehabilitated. That is a full holistic approach that we need. But Ranjana Kumari, is anything being done even close to that according to you? Are the steps that are currently being taken enough? Given that the figures are only rising year on year, we've shown those figures, why do you think the problem is becoming worse?
Well, as you just heard that, these are only reported. NCRB data is only data which is when people walk up to the police station and report an FIR has been written. But if you go for the numbers which are there in society, if you go for the, just a kind of good research to collect this information, perhaps it will run into 4 times more or 5 times more or maybe 10 times more. So, this is a matter of great concern. After COVID, we have been raising the issue of so many girl children dropping out of the school. But, schools have, states are denying it. There is no data that has been collected. Where are these girls? Why they never came back to the school? Have they got married? Have they been trafficked? But there's no data. So let me go back to the solution side, because all of us have identified the problem. Number one, we have changed the, the criminal law amendment, but the trafficking in women and children, the law is waiting for a long, long time. We have had many committees, we discussed it. So many things needs to be done, and I think at the time of Maneka Gandhi it was initiated and we all were part of that whole process. So first of all, get the law in place. Number two, that there used to be occasional monitoring. There was I do not know what is the status of the committee. If somebody can inform me, we were part of that committee where we were reviewing the implementation of the law and also how across the country, the systems can be put together. There is an example I want to give of NECMEC, which is an American, of course, and if I say that, people will jump at me and say, why foreign example? But we do have an example where you match the pictures. All the pictures are there and then we are so smart. We have, in fact, some Indian company has set up that system for NECMEC, participated at least in setting up, but we don't have that system where we can match, and anybody finding such children, such women anywhere can put it online and then can be matched quickly. We do have some semblance of helpline, as you already have shown the number, but then this needs to be streamlined more, strengthened more, so any child anywhere found. And what is alarming is the girls and women. Why? Somebody should ask this question: why young girls are being missing? Because obviously there is a direct link between the sex market and these girls being trafficked to cater to that market. Children, children are also being used by the pedophiles and others in this kind of a market, or sex abuse. These are the children. It's all part of the child abuse system, which is online, which is offline, and this is what is happening. And we all are aware. So what the tragedy of the whole situation is that even when we have so many helpline centers, one-stop center, we don't have a single report which talks about efficacy of these centers, efficiency of these centers. Are these centers really reaching out and working and helping to women? Similarly, we have helpline, but we don't know whether these helplines are really reports they receive. And I think one of the panelists said that they are doing well. They are trying to recover some. That is not enough. Clearly, that is not enough. And that is why we have these numbers.
So we know that lakhs of women and girls are going missing, but we don't know whether these helplines or these one-stop centers are rescuing any. How many have they rescued? How many have been rehabilitated? We know nothing on that. And Ms. Kumaramangalam, we have here acknowledged that these are only reported figures. The actual figures, unfortunately, might be really high, much higher than these. So when we talk about the situation being this bad, you've been a former chairperson of the National Commission for Women. We want to understand from you that what are the kind of crimes that might happen against these missing women and children? Some might be trafficked, as we've mentioned here, for sex work. Some might be trafficked for begging. According to your experience at the National Commission for Women, what kind of cases have you seen with these missing women and girls?
Very few such cases are really reported to the National Commission of Women because these go into the criminal system, which is the police station, and then if there are FIR filed, etc. We had a couple that came in. One of them was, strangely enough, for organ trafficking. People forget that bodily organs are up for sale all over the world. It can be a liver, it can be a kidney, it can be an eye, it can be even, I'm told, fingers and skin. Skin is the largest organ of the body. Most people don't realize that skin can also be transplanted sometimes. I'm told, I'm not a doctor, but this is what I was told. Also for begging, for many other things. They're used for smuggling. In short, unfortunately, because of the very deep patriarchy that exists, not just in India, I'd say throughout the world, women are considered, and children are considered, the most easily dispensable. Even girl children. So, agar, something happens to them, nobody cares. And this is one of the biggest reasons why I think that like Ranjana ji also said, monitoring is not good enough. We have a lot of systems that may have been set up, but we really don't know how well those systems are working. If they are working on par in all states, if some states are able to do better, why? Is information being shared? Is the justice system, one of the biggest problems in this country is that our judiciary is so slow. Right. I don't know, there are crores of cases pending. How many of these cases have to do with children or women? Nobody knows. And these are things, which is why I said that everybody has to sit down together and be honest about the fact that we have failed our women and children, full stop. Whether it's monitoring, whether it's the ways we are trying to find out how many have actually gone missing, gone God knows where, who and why, is there any sort of economic reason behind it? All of that. We know it's patriarchy, we know we just don't care enough about our women and our girls, but that's just very facile, upri baat jo we say, it's just the top, the tip, not even the tip of the iceberg. There needs to be a very concerted effort to see that when people go missing, and let's not just say only women and children, just say people who go missing, there has to be a system in place that's coordinated through all departments, all states, and through, both monitoring and implementation.
And
this is not being done. And rehabilitation, in India, rehabilitation is a joke, I think. I'm sorry I say it so bluntly after being head of NCW. But quite frankly, and it's not a laughing matter, I'm sorry for that, but rehabilitation is really, there's almost nothing except for very few places in some sections of government. I don't know, I don't want to go into the states, politics and all of that. And some really good NGOs doing that work. Rehabilitation is very bad in our country.
And it's unfortunate, Ms. Kumaramangalam, that we are acknowledging these problems, even people in the government acknowledge these problems, but still there's not much happening to change them. There's not much happening to increase the monitoring or to increase the rehabilitation measures. So that's extremely unfortunate, recognizing the problem but still not working to fix it. Mr. Ravikant, I want to come to you next. As Ms. Kumaramangalam mentioned, that very few of these cases actually get reported to the police and very few of them actually get reported to the NCW. But several NGOs like yours, several organizations actually work to rescue these children, these little girls in distress. So tell us about some of the accounts that you've come across over what happens to these missing girls, what kind of crimes do they witness?
So, as I have already said, that many of these children and women end up in trafficking situation, which may be from sexual exploitation to begging rackets and adoption rackets and other issues. What I'm trying to say is that the situation is not at all so bleak. The law enforcement has been, finding a lot of these children and women with help of NGOs, with help of child lines, with help of various police agencies across state agencies. What is required is, interstate investigation. And that is what brings us to the new anti-trafficking law, which has been pending for many years. The government needs to really, get this law passed, because that will bring into, play the interstate investigation which is required. Otherwise, the government has done a huge amount of work, as people every day involved in these rescue operations. The AHTUs are working, the child welfare committees are working, the DCPUs are there, the systems are in place, even technological, recognition tools are there. The railway police force has a standard, has a SOP mechanism for rescue of children and has signed an MOU. But you're agreeing that more
needs to be done from the government in order to...
What I'm trying to say is that
more needs to be done from the government's front along with the NGOs.
Search of these. It is not at all so bleak. We have been rescuing many and many of these, and we have been able to, unite many of these children and women with their families. But I do agree that a lot needs to be done, and therefore, for this concerted effort, the new anti-trafficking law, which will, really bring in interstate police cooperation, and cases of interstate and organized crime can be investigated.
All right, thanks very much for joining us.
Just one quick point let me make.
Just 30 seconds.
That I don't know, I don't know if this good work that is being done actually percolates down to the villages, to the panchayat and the village level. Maybe there is a lot being done in the cities. But like I said, data is very scarce. We don't know from where exactly most of these people go missing.
All right.
And does it go down into the villages where we really need to look at it?
In the parliament. There should be a report in the parliament, and they should discuss it, the kind of work that has been done, and how come these 13 lakh women and girls are missing, and this is the government data. We are not adding to that data from our side. So
well, thanks very much, ladies and gentlemen, for joining us. Unequivocally, we have failed our women and children. Until now, laws such as the anti-child trafficking laws have been pending for years, and they are still not yet passed. So there needs to be more done to save our women, save our little girls and our children from these horrific crimes of child trafficking, organ and sex abuse as well. Thanks very much for joining us on the show.